Funny. Hello, Andy.
Okay, let's see. I see people are coming in.
It's 9:30, Andy. Shall we begin?
Yeah. I'm just watching that people are joining us still.
Okay, we got somebody coming. Excellent. Makes me nervous.
So far,
don't tell me how many. I don't want to know. You and me.
Oh, it's about 300. You know, it's very popular.
Oh well.
People are still joining us. Give it another 30 seconds, and then we can formally begin. It looks like it's stabilized. Okay, I think most people are here who are going to join us. Welcome, everybody. Our speaker today, John Arnesen, talking about impact of skills development, as you can see. Just remember our rules. You won't be able to open your mic unless we specifically let you, but we're not going to do that. But we would like you to engage with John. So please do respond to him with questions or comments or whatever, but use the chat box. I will moderate as we normally do, and I will bring to his attention whatever comments or questions you've got at what seems like an appropriate time to interrupt him. So please do engage with him. This session is intended to be interactive, not just a presenter talking to us. That's not going to really help us. So without saying any more, John, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, Andy, and let's, before I share my whatever, just a quick chat here to give context to everybody. So this year, about a month or so ago, I went and tried to negotiate a training deal for one of my clients, who's a provider, accredited provider, and I was really struggling, and eventually I got to the CEO, the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and the COO, and I said, come on, guys, just be honest. What's the story? And they said to me, no, John, you're training people, you come here and you talk all this airy-fairy stuff. We see training as a cost. It's actually, especially now when the economy is a mess and everything is not great in the country, training actually is something we're not going to spend any money on at all. And they were a big organization. They got offices across the country. And I thought to myself, hey, guys, we as skills development professionals or L&D managers, this is our challenge, is to persuade those people that look at things, like in operations, in a finance way. They don't look at it from a people development point of view. They look at the numbers. And I said, okay, let me come back at them. And I came back at them with this simple model that I did on Excel. And we're doing, now we're talking about the training deal, because somehow this got through to them. Now, I don't want to say this is the answer, but it worked for me. And maybe because, as you'll see, it's an Excel spreadsheet. So I didn't come at them with PowerPoint slides or anything. I said, let's look at the numbers. And that's what I want to do now, is I just want to look quickly at some numbers and show you my logic that I followed. And if it works for you, you are so welcome to take the spreadsheet and adapt it or develop something from it, or you're even welcome to come back to me and say, John, that was too simplistic, but this is what, and I used a medium-sized business, and it's a hypothetical case. So here we have, and you'll see, I started off, I said, reminded them, okay, let's assume this business has got 50 employees. They paid about 25,000 Rand a month each. They get a bonus. And, ultimately you have to pay a skills development levy, and it comes to 162,000 Rand for the year. And then you get, that cost, that tax, that levy we have to pay. And then I say, but hang on, don't forget, you can get 20% back if you claim it, you do your homework, and we know what it is. And that would be 32,000 Rand. But, let's even assume there's a cost of doing this of 10,000 Rand. But actually, your SDF less, if you're going to call it a tax, the worst case scenario for this business would be 140,000 Rand a year. And that is in a way, it's a sunk cost. It's like a lot of things that organizations have to pay. But I said, hang on, we still need to look at training, and is training a viable, is there a business case for training? And this is what was my business case. I said, okay, now let's assume you did your homework, you complied, and this organization, it said, well, we actually want to take advantage now of this whole SETA and skills development framework or environment, and we're going to apply for a discretionary grant for 5 learners to go on a learnership. And we get it, because in fact we do our homework properly, and we know if your client or your organization does its homework properly and does a good submission, there's a fairly good chance it will get funding. But that funding, as we know in the yellow box, the 25,000 Rand for 5 learners for the training and for the learnership, and maybe, I don't know, I estimated 5,000 Rand per month for the 5 learners over 12 years for the stipend. That 425,000 Rand, yes, it's a grant from the SETA, we know this, but it doesn't come to the organization. So, they say, well, that doesn't come to us anyway, so there's no value in that. And then they will say to me, and I said to them, well, you would agree that in addition, now you've got these 5 learners, you've got to project manage them, you probably got to pay them another bit of stipend for travel, you've got to put a workstation in place, and you do some mentoring and coaching. And then I did some estimated numbers here, and this comes to 317,000 Rand. And that's the real cost, this 317,000 Rand. So then I said to these guys, hang on, no, wait a minute. And I hope you're following me. I'm not going too fast here. Andy, you must just stop me if I'm going too fast, but I'm assuming most people will get this.
I think you do good.
Okay. So the 425,000 Rand is a gain to the organization, but it doesn't flow through the organization directly. It goes to the learners, goes to the provider, but it is 425,000 Rand. And this is the point, that the organization would have had to pay if it had to train. And it's got that money for free. But the 317 is something, 370,000, something they would pay. So then I said, well, okay, let's look at the tax situation. And this is where, they looked at me like, what do you know about tax? And yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the people space, but these are not complicated numbers actually. So again, in my hypothetical example, and we related it back to the organization, but this is just the small, it's this organization with 50 employees. Its income after expenses or profit, the estimate is 10 million Rand. Now you'll see the next line there. I've said, however, if you did the training, if you embarked on that learnership with those 5 learners, you would incur that additional 317,000 Rand. You would have to find it. It's a cost. And so in actual fact, your taxable income reduces, because you have to spend this money, from 10 million, your taxable profit reduces from 10 million to 9.683 million. Drops a little bit. And there you see the difference now, is you get a tax benefit. Before learnership, I'll talk about learnerships in a few seconds time, but you get a tax benefit of 47,000 Rand. And that is now, you can offset against that 317,000 Rand. So what I was trying to do is to get these, the COO and the CFO to understand that, hang on, this is not money that you play with and you don't tell. We in training, we in L&D, we in skills development, we know this extra money will be spent, and therefore you will of course, make sure you get the tax, and I'm assuming a 15% tax rate. And so there's 47,000 Rand that reduces that expenditure, because SARS effectively gives it back to you, I suppose.
John, and just a question from my side. So what you're talking about now is, they say we would normally be paying this amount of tax, but we have an additional expense. Which
Yes.
then, this is not talking about the tax incentive for learnership completion. This is
So I'm assuming these people haven't even heard about a learnership. They just spend, they got the money and it wasn't a learnership, and they just, so this would be, instead of spending having a tax bill of 1.5 million, their tax bill reduced to 1.452, which is reduced by that 47,000 on just those training costs on managing those 5 learners. But the next little block here, Andy, is exactly that, to try and say, okay, hang on. Now let's take the learnership, the section 12H learnership allowance into account as well. Because I was trying to build up the logic here in the spreadsheet. So I said, we know, let's assume it's an NQF level 5, there's 40,000 on registration and 40,000 on completion, and I'm saying we were an efficient organization. We did it in the 12 months, and really for simplicity, because now people can get complicated about year ends and things like that. And I said, no. And they didn't argue with me. They said, let's understand the philosophy first, or the logic first. So I said, it's 40,000, so it's 80,000 per learner, which works out at 400,000. And I said, and we know as L&D people, that's not 400,000. It's an allowance of 400,000. And so, because I've actually found this, in fact, even amongst some of my clients, they try and convince my provider clients, salespeople, not all of them. Some of the salespeople say, oh, you get 80,000 back per learner on your tax. And the answer is no, you don't. You get an allowance. So let's just take the same example, and here is the 10 million rand profit. Here is, in this, on the right hand side, we didn't do the training, so you still pay the 10 million rand, the tax on the 10 million rand, you pay at 15%, 1.5 million. But now you can claim that 317,000 rand is an expense, drops your profit to 9.683, and SARS, here is the 400,000 rand. Here is the learnership tax allowance of 400,000, drops your taxable amount from 9.683 to 9.283, which means your tax payable drops from 1.5 million in total to 1.392 million. Or in fact, it's a saving of 107,000 rand. And that's when I started to see the CFO and the COO start to see me, because I was making the argument, in a different light. They were like, oh, this oak's, he's almost in my wheelhouse. He knows what I'm talking about. And this is the point, I think, that we as SDFs and skills development and L&D managers, if we can get these numbers clear in our head, and we can say, hang on, guys, in a way, that learnership allowance and that money that we get back, it must be offset against training costs. It's not something, because I know some of my corporate clients, when I speak to the L&D manager, they say, yeah, but the finance oaks, that's their money and we can't get hold of it. And I said, no, you've got to make your argument better. And so this is a training benefit. So now, bottom line.
John, if I can just comment on that. So what I'm hearing is, and I know the argument that you're referring to, the training departments say we don't see any of these tax benefits. It doesn't come into our budget.
Yeah.
But that's not the point that you're making. The point is it comes to the business. And if we try to convince line managers, they are concerned about the business, not about our budget.
Yeah, it's exactly that, Andy. And so there's 107,000 rand. And remember, I said, well, there's this 317,000 where we're going to do project management and pay additional. And maybe you can drop this number even. This is, I was quite, for a better word, conservative or generous. I wanted this to be slightly higher than this. But this in itself, if you're really an efficient organization, you might be able, even at this point, to get that number quite close to zero. But assuming the 317,000 less the 107 ends up at just over 200,000 Rand. That works out at 3,491 Rand per learner per month, which works out actually at 29 Rand and 9 cents per learner per hour, assuming they only work for 20 days a month and only are working for 6 hours in the day, because of course there must be some time where they do other stuff and get trained. But you start to say to yourself, and I said to these guys, you're getting learners that want to learn on the job for 12 months at just under 30 Rand an hour. You know, actually that's a bit embarrassing. It's so cheap because, you know, we know the minimum wage, you know. So, okay, so that was and now we're starting to say, okay. And then I said, and now let's just pull this all together and look at some of the more intangible stuff. Your BE scorecard, you're taking on 5 learners, assuming you appoint the right people in terms of EAP regulations, and you guys will know that. It is a learnership, so of course you're going to get, there's no capping, and that 317,000 that you talk about is also claimable in terms of BE expenditures, so you're going to do better on your BE scorecard. That, in the long term, is going to bring you more business. Tick box number 1. Second point is, you guys know as COO and CFO that recruitment is a cost. Yeah, you've got 5 people, and you can look at them for 12 months, and maybe you pick all 5, or you pick 1 or 2. And so that recruitment cost and that training cost of a new person and the risk of bringing somebody in and they're useless and you have to fire them and start again, you save all of that money, and surely there's a benefit there. I didn't put a number to it because I call these intangible, but and the guys sort of had to nod their heads. And then the last point is, yeah, you've got 5 people, and don't go put them in a corner and ignore them. They want to work. They have come to do a learnership and to learn and to get experience, because we all know you want to have a meaningful CV. And so if you get organized and you take learnership seriously, and you of course you don't make these people make tea and coffee and silly stuff like that, but you make them work in the field that you're training them up in, you're going to get work output that you're only paying 29 Rand an hour for. And honestly, that in itself is a huge saving. And that is how I managed to win the argument, win the case, get these guys to say, okay, we hear you, let's talk about our training needs in particular. And Andy, that's what I wanted to share. And I'm not sure if there are any questions. Or
well, there is a comment from Andrew Kellett. Says, thanks, John. In my mind, the value of learnerships is in many ways immeasurable. This calculation, however, assumes a consistent and predictable discretionary grant amount paid. This is, of course, unfortunately not the case with most seaters. DG windows are notoriously unpredictable, erratic, and amounts variable. So, yeah, okay.
Well, let's just talk to that.
Yeah.
And I know I'm a sample of one, but it'd be interesting if we could do a quick survey, but we can't on the survey. But my experience is the organizations that I know that do submit excellent WSP, ATR, and pivotal plans, and submit good, very good grant applications, generally get part or all of the application. So typically what we say is ask for more and get actually what you want for. And so I have a view that you can be successful with a CETA if you just have a good strategy and you have you take it seriously.
John, I've had the same experience with my clients. They don't get all that they want, but typically they'll get something. So I've given them the same advice.
Yeah.
And
okay, so I
don't want to hear what you say.
Yeah, I understand it's not as simple, but But I also say, you know, otherwise, where are you going to get your people from? Okay, moving on. Okay.
So then a couple more comments from Angela Schultz. Lovely example that allows those who are just seeing the numbers to understand very plainly the value skills development offers. Skills development, we know, also boosts the morale of the employee when the business has invested in their skills. This feeds into retention of valued talent. I think you want to make a comment.
No, but I also agree with that, and that, you know, once you because for me that 29 Rand per hour was like the tick the box. Oh,
yeah.
I like it. Then it was the comment that was just made now, but in addition, you got this chance of really getting, it's almost like a 12-month induction at a minimal cost for somebody that's going to fly. Eh? Yeah.
And certainly, it's been my experience in working with client organizations and learnerships that, you know, you can say to them, okay, the first 6 months, maybe you can't expect very much from a new entrant learner. But the second 6 months, by that stage, they should be able to add value to your business. And they may start in a small way, but towards the end of that 12-month period, if you've given them enough support, they're going to be a good addition to your team at a very, very cheap price.
Yeah. One of my smaller clients, they only got about 30 employees, you know, it sort of varies to 35. But they typically recruit 3 or 4 learners every year, and they put them in their front line, you know, and 9 times out of 10, I mean, I'm sort of, but the vast majority of those very young people stay in the firm, grow, and then actually end up at a Gibbs or some really big organization. Yeah, but yeah.
Then a few more comments from Sharon. Most of the ASDSA designated professionals get 80% of the discretionary grants as we survey our members annually. So people are getting grants. A question from Michael Tiger. What about the ETI allowance that can be allocated as well? That might be an interesting addition. What do you think?
Yeah, let me say, I don't know enough about it to comment. Maybe he could tell us.
But I think it's worth you know, the clients that I've been working with haven't typically claimed ETI.
Okay.
Maybe something that in addition.
You want to tell us, Andy, because we all here to learn. Quickly give us a 30-second on it.
No, I'm not a boffin on that. We'll have to come back to that. Then from Janine, the companies also could further save on cost if they host an employer, if they secure a host employer. Often the medium-sized companies that don't have the capacity to host learners. I don't know if you've got any comments on that. And then Sharon again, CETAs also have special projects that you can request leadership funding that can be applied for. Okay, so it's not just
that is true. So Sharon's right. There are grant windows, but CETAs also have additional funds, and so you've got to stay close to your CETA. And then coming back to host employer, I think the danger here is of trying to claim things that are not legitimate. Despite what happens in our country in terms of corruption, I always advise my clients to be honest and ethical and claim what is fair. So if I'm a small organization and there's a host employer that manages the learner, and all I do is I get this basically free resource, of course I must do some workplace training of that person. I can't claim the other costs that the host employer is picking up. I can only claim my own costs. That would be my advice to my client.
But John, the message that I'm getting out of this is that often as learning professionals, we talk about issues and arguments that don't necessarily make a lot of sense to line managers. We talk about the need for developing people and blah, 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 all of those, and they're good things. But if we want to convince the management, we need to talk their language. And finance is one part. It's not the only part, but it's a big part of that argument that we need to make to people to say, it's worthwhile investing.
Unfortunately, in South Africa, whether we want to accept it or not, the vast majority of organizations, the CFO or the COO is quite often also quite a finance-orientated person, is close to as powerful as the CEO. And so you've got to get them on your side. And
yeah, you do.
So that's why this was an aha moment for me, that I said, Andy, I just want to share this, because it was like, wow, I can't believe it's taken me. And now I'm 67. So maybe I'm a bit slow, but it was like, yes, now I can talk to you guys in the language you will understand. And we were successful. So yeah, good luck.
And then a comment from Mariana. Maybe the one challenge we have is the fact we need to live by. There's no guarantee. We can make calculations, but in the end, the onus remains the CETA. We didn't always get what we asked for, so we need to remind the client about the fact that there are no guarantees. Our comment then from Sylvia Hammond. So we've got just 4 minutes left, so want to work quickly. Totally agree with model and never had issues with getting DG applications, but whether there are DG windows and whether for specific jobs or problems in CETA admin of payouts are also an issue. Yes, I think. Then Sharon, the ETI allowance is for permanently employed staff that for any youth can be utilized directly against your PAY funds payable to SARS every month, 1,500 per person per month. As soon as you have employed the learner as permanent, this incentive is available for 2 years as well. Okay, so it's applicable really only after they're employed, as well as any employee under 30. And Felicity, ETI reduces the cost of hiring people through a cost-sharing mechanism with government. And then Angelique has put in the link for CPD points. And I'm going to quickly post the Excel spreadsheet into here, if it'll go. There we go. So I don't know if that's come through. I've got a message that says, hang on, going to not everybody.
Andy, while you're posting, I just want to say thank you. I don't know, I can't remember the name of mentioned the ETI. I think this is part of these conversations that we have. I've made a big note here. Do my homework, because when I'm talking to the next people and I'm with those finance people, I'm going to say, and let me tell you about ETI. And I will know. I will do my homework. I won't look at it sit like I looked here on the screen. I know. I was like, oh, Jono. So thank you very much for raising that as well. I appreciate it.
Andy, if you can send the thing to me quickly on WhatsApp, I'll post it in the chat. Oh, you got it right. No problem.
I worked out why I couldn't post it. Sorry.
Okay,
listen, we're on 2 minutes to 10. And I know, John, you've got a second.
I got to go now.
So do I. Yeah. Colleagues, can we thank you for joining us and say goodbye?
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye then.
Thank you. Keep well. Bye-bye.